All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another webinar hosted by Seek and Andy Starnes of Insight Fire Training. We have Andy here who brings over 30 years of experience from his career as a battalion chief in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Andy, thanks for being here today to talk with everyone about preventing firefighter disorientation using thermal imaging cameras. If you guys have any questions, please just type the questions in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them in a timely manner throughout this webinar. So with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys, and take it away, Andy.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate the opportunity. As many of you know, I'm very passionate about the subject of thermal imaging. However, I'm more passionate about one particular subject within that, which is saving firefighters' lives. So this one is particularly important to me, as all training is, but this one holds a special place in my heart because I'm trying my best as a fire service educator to save firefighters' lives and their families. And the one thing I believe is there's enough training and technology and skills and information in the world today that we can help firefighters find their way through the darkness to get back to their crew, to their loved ones, their fire station, and carry on with the service that they swore to do. And we owe that to them to teach them this information. So let's start with a particularly important phrase and a particularly important slide. There are many firefighters across the U.S., approximately 1.1 million. There are a lot of great people out there. However, there are some people who believe this will never happen to you. And let me tell you, I was one of those people that you'll never get lost or disoriented. I've been lost or disoriented 3 times in 34 years. There's no reason why I should be sitting before you other than the grace of God. It was not my skill that saved me. It was God's circumstance and another firefighter who was better than me that was watching out for me on a couple of occasions. If you think you're that good that this will never happen to you, I suggest you go ahead and retire or leave the fire service now because you're a liability. This job will throw things at you that you will never expect. Buildings will have things in them that you can't plan for. And this job will take your life. And if you don't respect it, you continue to educate yourself and others, you're going to be a statistic. And that's not my goal. I don't want firefighters to be a statistic. I want them to be a servant, and I want them to get home and continue their service to others. And one of the most important things we can teach firefighters to do is to assess the environment they're in, have that information, and as my friend Thomas Anderson from Insight Training says, we're going to give your eyes back to you long enough for you to make better decisions. And the term situational awareness is a very important topic, and I can't go any further without referencing the master of that, Dr. Richard Gassaway. Please check out his work and the people he has working for him. And a quote that he uses often is the ability to see the bad things coming in time to prevent bad outcomes. One of the things that we teach in our training is that when we pull up at an intersection in a vehicle, we have the common sense to look both ways before we pull out and cross that street or drive through there. Firefighters on many occasions enter IVLH environments with zero visibility, limited visibility, without really looking and assessing where they're going. Either they do not have a camera to do so, they're not using the camera, or many other circumstances, not being trained on it, not scanned properly. And they're not getting the information they need to make better decisions. With a thermal imaging camera, whether you're using a situational awareness camera or a decision-making camera, if you're properly trained with these devices, you can gain more information than you can with the naked eye. I have many of my friends who are in the search teaching industry, and they always talk about data, getting to bedrooms, getting to areas where people are. Wouldn't it be nice just to know where those are when you use your training and use this device to give you the map to find those areas, and that mental map is now in your brain? And then if you get in trouble, you know which way to go. That's as simple as this subject can be, but it's so much more important than that. This topic has been written about, blogged about, researched for a couple of decades now. And the sad thing is that this statistic still exists, that one of the leading contributing factors in line of duty deaths, other than heart attack, overexertion, stress, is firefighters being unaware of changing conditions and becoming lost and disoriented, which leads to their injury or death. And firefighter disorientation is one of the oldest topics, least understood, and deadliest hazard of interior firefighting, according to William Moore. If you don't know who he is, I highly recommend you look up his work in the U.S. Firefighter Disorientation Study. I have a Cliff Notes version of his work right there in that QR code called Preventing Firefighter Disorientation in honor of what he's done. He has a book from fire engineering you can check out called Preventing Firefighter Disorientation. And the beauty of that book is that many smart people throughout our generations have written about topics. And then another smart person did some research and wrote about the same topic, like Don Abbott. And these smart people who have paved the way for our future all have put the data out there, and their data all aligns that the loss of direction or due to lack of vision in a structure fire continues to be a problem and usually precedes a firefighter's fatality and usually has warning signs like Don Abbott talks about in his top 25 contributors or warnings of a future Mayday. Yet we continue to have this problem. Because my experience, ladies and gentlemen, is thermal imaging is not prioritized in the global fire service, not just the American fire service. I just got back from Germany, trained Switzerland firefighters. I've been to Canada, I've trained in Poland. And what I can tell you is it is not a priority. It is becoming one, but we need to work on this because firefighter disorientation data is there that shows that this topic needs to be focused on so that we can become more efficient and not lose firefighters due to injury and become inefficient and the fireground operations stop or halted due to a Mayday or RIT. 18% of all fireground injuries as of 2 years ago were due to firefighters becoming lost or disoriented, and that's according to the U.S. Fire Administration. Those injuries resulted in time off from work. That's extra overtime. That's people riding short staffs. That's future of other Maydays, which Project Mayday points out is when they're riding short. And if you look at 2022, 8 firefighters lost their lives due to becoming lost and disoriented, according to the U.S. Fire Administration. And in 2023, 10% of all firefighter line of duty deaths were due to being lost, caught, or trapped. And some impressive data, if we look outside of ourselves, not just at the fire service, of the concept of disorientation. Is a study by the FAA found that people can lose spatial orientation or awareness of where they are and where things are in as little as 178 seconds after entering a low visibility or zero visibility environment. This is not new. This is not news to people, yet it is not a priority because it won't happen to me. We do Mayday training, we do this training, but you either don't have a thermal imaging camera, you don't train them on them, or the cameras I see that are in place are 20 years old. Firefighters don't wear 20-year-old turnout gear. They don't wear 20-year-old air packs in municipal departments. There are some departments that are struggling that wear old stuff, but the majority of the fire service is wearing updated equipment. But yet I see antiquated thermal imaging cameras being used that are not efficient and will not provide the information, such as you see in this video, where we are scanning an environment where you would get lost and disoriented if you did not make a scan and get your bearings before you moved into it. High moisture easily can cover the lens on the tick, which can cause firefighters to become frustrated and think it whited out. That's why we teach wiping the lens. You can see here in the survey mode of the Attack Pro VRS versus TI Basic, as firefighters make entry here at IFRT in Germany, where we just got back from. They're able to get a quick layout, direction of the fire, convection, which way to go, and make that decision quickly, and then put the camera down. Because this data that William Mora talks about in his firefighter disorientation study, he talks about disorientation being due to several different concepts, phenomenons, or events. One is flashover, backdraft, and then we talk about being in there for extended, prolonged, zero visibility conditions. Think about what's happened in the last 15 years. We went from certain types of turnout gear to thicker turnout gear to 30-minute cylinders to 45-minute cylinders to 60-minute cylinders, and we're operating longer, and the average time to Mayday is around 13 minutes, right when you're starting to run out of air. And then we have disorientation secondary to collapse, disorientation, which this is a big one, secondary due to steam conversion. Moisture is kryptonite to a thermal imaging camera. We have to teach firefighters how to overcome that and how to maintain orientation, use these as a secondary means of orientation, and how to wipe the lens, get low, and get their bearings so they can regain orientation with their crew, back to the task, or out of the environment in the case of an emergency. Why am I hammering this? Quite simply, this is a disorientation sequence that's been identified by William Moore that talks about when the arriving company officer shows up and initiates an aggressive interior attack to search for the seat of the fire. During the search, the seat of the fire cannot be located and conditions deteriorate. Well, if I'm crawling in this and I'm not able to locate it and it's all around me, your gear is absorbing energy, fire's conditions are worsening, and you hear the following phrase on the radio, on YouTube, Maydays, reading NIOSH reports, encountering high heat conditions, unable to locate the fire. Where are you when you say that? What's happening all around you that you're unaware of due to the illusion of protection PPE? PPE has limits. So do thermal imaging cameras. So does human flesh. So do our senses. All of that has been encapsulated, covered, reduced, diminished, and we have one device that in a matter of few seconds can give us that information if we just take the time to use it and train our firefighters how to do that. And then you look at line of duty deaths from as far back as 2002 on, where you have cameras in service. It's a sad, repeated statistic where they become separated, disoriented, lost. This would happen in 2002, where they were trying to escape and the firefighter became separated from the crew from a fully involved house fire. And in 2005, a 37-year-old male, while exiting a residential basement fire, got separated and died. See the consistency here? Separated, lack of accountability, couldn't find each other, couldn't find their way out. And then for my friends who are search experts, people do die during search. Just because you don't want to look at data that's 15 years old, it continues to happen. 41-year-old male career firefighter died after becoming disoriented and falling down a set of stairs while searching for a missing male occupant. And a quote that was in that report was, "There was heavy smoke, but no fire." Those two things don't go together. If you have heavy smoke, you have fire, and you are in the flow path. The word flow path, the teaching of flow path, the concept of heat transfer and how it works should be the fundamental teachings in firefighting. The less than 1% of a fire essentials manual is dedicated to fire behavior. And there's only 3 to 7 paragraphs in many of these books on thermal imaging cameras. So a question that should be asked of every firefighter, when you have turbulent, fast-moving, optically dense smoke, where are you? And what are you doing about it? Don't be fueled, as my father Joe Starnes said. You're crawling in a convective flow path. You're basically in an oven. What are you doing about it? Are you cooling? Are you confining? Are you aware of where you are? You know how fast you're absorbing energy? Look at these 2 pictures from the Attack Pro VRS. Many firefighters ignore convective heat transfer because this bottom picture shows it in grayscale. And I'm sorry, there's more than 50 shades of gray. This camera shows 256 contrasting shades of gray, and I can't get firefighters to understand that convective heat transfer, fast-moving white-gray stuff is hot. And then I flip a button and put it in survey mode, and for my friends who are against color, this gets their attention long enough for them to do something. They realize, ooh, that's hot. Yeah, it is hot, but both are showing the exact same image. They're showing it differently based on the program and programming the application mode. Firefighters need to be aware of this. This is not new. There's been application modes that show early colorization around for quite some time now. The firefighters are just shown how to turn it on, read the little number in the bottom right-hand corner. Red is hot, they can't see through glass. And that information alone makes a firefighter dangerous. The spot temperature itself will get you killed because in this example, it shows a temperature of 155 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a reason why NFPA removed that spot temperature, because firefighters looked at that number and thought that was the overall environment. And if you think I'm saying ticks are the answer to preventing line of duty deaths, no, I'm not. They're just part of the answer. Because over-reliance on ticks has been a contributing factor to many injuries and line of duty deaths as well. What we want to look at is the similarities of the deaths that has already occurred, the debt that's already been paid, and how can we prevent this from happening in the future. And one of the things I want to focus on, as mentioned, and my friend Kyle Romagus hammers this in all of his teaching, is that you hear penciling or short bursts of water were used or applied. The short burst of water does not provide adequate cooling. UL, Canada, and the Navy all produce data on that. And the version of penciling that the US does is not the same as what my friends teach in CFBT and gas cooling. Obviously, when you cool briefly in a hot environment, it will rebound and return. The UL study shows the most increased temperature was right there at the nozzle. The greater the temperature differential, the faster the heat transfer. If I don't put out the fire and I only cool quick, just a short burst, then the fire is going to return and it's going to cause more heat transfer to whoever's in that path. That's physics, basic science, nothing new. So let's talk about the contributing factors to disorientation and how we can fix that. Number one, over-reliance on tick use for orientation. If you take one of our courses, we cover 10 things. And the first thing we talk about is don't over-rely on technology. You should be fundamentally sound. You should know where you are. You should be able to do your skills. And then you add this as a force multiplier to your skill set, as my friend David Hinojosa says. Secondarily, failure to wipe the lens. Even NIOSH has failed to report this correctly. They've listed that the camera showed a gray screen, which was indicative of a uniform temperature environment. I'm not arguing that that could not occur, but when you say that the firefighter is wiping their face piece and they see a green screen on the tick, the front of that lens is covered with moisture, steam, particulate, and debris, which produces a white screen. Ticks haven't whited out due to heat since 2013. You will see whiteout effects on a screen for 3 reasons. Moisture and particulate, failure to wipe it, that's your first one. Secondarily, gain change, camera switching from high to low sensitivity. You'll have a brief pause with a white screen. They scan too fast. And if the camera was installed improperly, they did not put the EMI coatings in it, you key up a radio or you're near a strong radio signal interference, and it will produce a locked up white staticky screen. Other contributing factors are high moisture, cold smoke environments, using a tick in a sprinkler head, warehouse. Failure to properly interpret thermal data has been the one that's reported to me the most. I get videos of firefighters who've been injured and killed, and they send them to me to provide data back, and the majority of it, they are in a flow path and never recognize it. Or worse yet, they have a camera that has way too many applications that don't have anything to do with firefighting, such as rainbow, iron bow, reverse polarity, or black hot. And they're using that in a fire because they think that's a really cool color palette, and it ends up getting them hurt or killed. And then we have fire departments today that are using antiquated ticks, older than 10 years old, or low resolution, low refresh rate situational awareness cameras that don't produce a good enough image to provide discernible detail for them to simply see, hey, there's a chair, like in this picture. There's the thermal layer. And the thermal layer is descending, which points towards the fire or indicates I'm in a very bad place. And if you want a brief overview of what ticks won't do, check out our QR code on tick limitations overview and learn the contraindications and learn how you can overcome some of those. That's why this is important. Teaching positive and the negative side of the tool, because no tool is perfect and no firefighter is perfect. But if we teach them how to use it, how to overcome limitations, and more importantly, what it won't do, it's not a thermometer, it doesn't see gases, but it can provide diagnostic data that can help me do my job or help find my way out, that's when we win. That's when we start seeing what I call intelligently aggressive firefighters, not firefighters who make nasty comments on our Facebook page every day. Don't use a tick. Don't rely on it. It'll fail you. Well, guess what? I bet your car broke down on you one time. Did you walk to work the next day? No. I bet your cell phone has failed you. Did you forget your cell phone today? No. I bet your internet's failed you, and I bet you still use the internet. We have some firefighters who are against learning, not against technology, learning. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous firefighter out there. Don't be closed-minded. Learn, adapt, grow, and help others do the same. Let's learn about some of these devices and how they can help you. First of all, there are many situational awareness ticks on the market, which originally were designed to prevent firefighter disorientation. However, they're not all the same. The ones on the left of this image are 9 Hertz models or slower. Your eye refreshes at 27 Hertz. 1 Hertz is 1 frame per second. Think about that. So you're using a device that's 3 times slower than your eyes and 1/4 the resolution of a decision-making camera. So you don't have the pixels on target, you don't have the speed, and there are manufacturers that say firefighters don't need above 9 Hertz because they don't move their head that fast. That's a direct quote from one of them. Now, you're dying, you're lost and trapped. Are you going to control your head movement nice and slow? Are you going to stop and stare at the screen and wipe the lens and be calm when your heart rate's elevated and pain's pushing you to the floor? No. In my opinion, 9 Hertz models should be removed from the market. I understand why they exist because of basically ITAR export classification rules because of terrorism. But we need to do better and give firefighters a device that doesn't slow them down or delay information to them. Models on the right here are 16 to 30 Hertz. And they all have mixed gain mode in these cases here, which allows them to refresh faster. That's what firefighters need, is faster refresh rate, better image quality. They all have pros and cons, but it gives them more information and it allows them to do that without getting in their way, because all of those models are smaller. They should have a task in their hands, such as a nozzle, a tool, or searching. They should not have a heavy camera if they are doing a task-oriented firefighter, such as a searching firefighter or a nozzle. When we talk about Seek's products, they have an amazing product called the Fire Pro 300. This camera gives you the best of both worlds. It has the decision-making power of a decision-making camera, but it's in a situational awareness housing. Many firefighters have asked me, why is this not a decision-making camera? I could tell them basically one reason. It does not have the insulation your Attack Pro has. It has everything else. And Seek Thermal was kind enough to take some recommendations and make this already flipped, where we teach other firefighters to turn those pistol grip cameras sideways to gain that field of view from floor to ceiling. They flip the actual lens and detector in this, where it's already done that way. If you hold it just like a cell phone, you can see floor to ceiling in one view. It speeds up your scan time. It's 25 hertz mixed gain, which outperforms many 30 hertz and 60 hertz cameras. It gives you the same performance as a decision-making camera or better. And NIST even agrees that the display or refresh rate is important in applications when camera operator may be moving or constantly scanning a scene. If you're doing one or the other, you're not sitting still in a fire. So you need a device that keeps up with you and is easy to operate and can operate with a gloved hand. And this device outperforms the majority of them out there. These are the current models Seek makes. If you look at the QR codes at the bottom, they will take you to 1-hour webinars on 4 out of the 5 of these models to help educate you on those. We're working on something for your Fire Pro 200 because we don't currently have one for it. But you will have resources. If you go to my website, there's 17 hours of videos just on Seek Thermal products, along with other videos on other manufacturers to help you learn your device and how to use it. So our original topic today is helping you stay oriented and preventing that. Whose responsibility is that? Everyone's, not just the company officer. And it's a fundamental skill base that should be done in training, where we train firefighters in low to zero visibility environments. It should be mandatory, and we should eliminate artificial smoke from training. Yes, I said it. Artificial smoke produces artificial results. It's high moisture content using fake mannequins or heated mannequins and heat sources that don't generate the same conditions as a fire. Is preparing our firefighters for an environment they'll never face. And it's giving them overconfidence. As we said recently in a friend of mine's conversation, I've never met a training fire I couldn't put out. Well, as Kyle Robbins says, one day you're going to meet the boogeyman. And if you haven't been prepared to meet the boogeyman in a house fire, you're going to lose. And that's not my goal for you. My goal is for you to win. That includes training you on RIT, SCBA emergencies, including the tip for assessment. And there are NFPA standards that tell you all of this stuff should be mandatory when it regards to thermal imaging. NFPA 1001, which is the 1010 standard now, which some people say they're not following. They're just using it for test questions, which is absolute garbage in my opinion. If you're going to use a standard for test questions, but you're not going to use it for training firefighters because you don't want to add thermal imaging training to recruits, that's an excuse that won't hold up in court. It requires all new hires to have thermal imaging training in live fire. NFPA 1408, which is changing to 1400, has been around since 2015, which outlines 23 topics on annual classroom and hands-on live fire training every firefighter shall do. And get this, every firefighter who is on a fire department, if you put a new camera in service, you shall train every single member before you place it in service. Now, how many are doing that? And how many will be held liable one day? And I'm afraid it's not going to be from a firefighter's death. It's going to, we kill a family, we kill someone important, and they find out we didn't do our job. How are we going to explain that? You can argue with me all you want, but my father says it best. Best chart wins. Stack the data, stack your opinion, and tell me which one holds up. NFPA 1801, which is changed into 1930, tells how the cameras are tested, designed, and why they have a certain resolution. It's one of the better standards. It definitely needs some improvement when it comes to the resolution portion, but it at least tells you what you should know when buying a camera and what an instructor should know and what these devices will do so you can prevent firefighter disorientation. And the things that we keep seeing is we don't do size up, we don't get a good building layout, we don't stay accountable, whether knowing where our crew is, or the incident commander loses track of them, and then we overestimate our capabilities between us and the exit. We go too far, too deep, get in a bad spot, and then we call for help, and we have less than 3 to 5 minutes of air remaining. We'll wait till our low air alarm goes off, because we're not maintaining or managing our air, rule of air management. 1/3 to get in, 1/3 to get out, 1/3 for your emergency. Nobody's doing that because they think it'll never happen to them. And when it does, they wish they had checked their cylinder that day because they lost an extra 100 PSI because they were too lazy to change it in the morning. You know how many breaths you got when your low air alarm quits? I hope you do, because I don't want you to figure it out when you're dying. And my biggest thing that you can do to help firefighters is train them in object and hazard identification through their camera. What's a door look like? What's a hose line look like? What's a window look like? What does shiny surfaces look like? Because they look different, and you can help them identify. How can I help them regain orientation? If you have an MSAI tick, there's an overview of that device right there, so you can do that. We want you to use what you have. It's sponsored by Seek Thermal, but we want you to use thermal imaging. We're not brand specific. We're firefighter specific. And incident commanders out there, this applies to you because you're in charge. You're doing your size up. You're walking up, and your camera shows you basement, single pane glass. Uh-oh, walking up, basement window. I saw something. What was that? This is real time, not edited. All of a sudden, we see the firefighter making entry, hose line going in. What was that little spot to the far right? Why are we not paying attention to it? We're moving too fast. I want you to keep looking. What is that spot over? Why is it lighting up yellow? What does that mean? Where are my firefighters going? How does that affect them? What you saw, ladies and gentlemen, is a basement window that was lighting up yellow because it's single pane glass, which allows infrared energy to transfer through it, indicating the fire is in the basement to their right. Is that important for a firefighter to know before they move down that basement? Yeah, it is. Is 30 seconds not worth their life to do your 360 and communicate that information? But if you don't use a tick, or you scan high to low instead of low to high, which we've been trying to correct for years, you will miss. As my friend and instructor Robert Foreman says, always be concerned with the lowest level of fire. Or I heard it said another way, fire above you will hurt you, fire below you will kill you. They call this season we're in right now Grabuary, January and February, because there's a lot of rescues made. I call it death season. It's January and February. A lot of firefighters fall through the floor into basements, especially in our areas that are heavy winter, very cold environments. They miss the basement on the 360. You can argue about why they missed it or not, but they do. And the firefighter ends up in the basement. Read it. Don't believe me, look it up yourself. Okay. So how can we stay oriented? Well, I was taught to stay on a hose line, stay on a wall, use a flashlight, use a search rope. I can tell you all of those are antiquated now. If you're staying on a hose line, you sure ain't going to find my family. If you're staying on a wall, how much wall do you really have? And you're not going to find somebody in the middle of the room. If you're using flashlights and optically dense smoke, very difficult. You can get low and see things. Search rope in an environment that has lots of stuff in it is a giant entanglement hazard. You don't believe me? Look at all the fishing line hanging around the ocean, and what is it doing to anybody swimming through it? Poor fish are getting all tangled up in it. You're a poor fish getting tangled up in a bunch of line. Because if you think you're doing that in a large area environment with nothing there, and you can hook off it, do sweeps, and not get entangled, can you untangle that rope in the dark with your oven mitts on, as Robert Ramirez says? Good luck. We need a plan. We need to section this house off, know what sections we can do quickly. We need to have drills on this. How can we get through our standard 3-bedroom, 2-bath, split bedroom house and know where things are, know our secondary means of egress, and communicate and use these devices to help us? Because as this gentleman, Vincent Benazzi, says in an article, walls versus hose line versus hand rails, he says it best. I like quoting smart people. The wall is intended to be an orientation point, a right hand or left hand search. But I would argue the effectiveness of our search is increasing by using other means of orientation. That's what he says, other means of orientation. After all, it's called a wall, not a railing. That's beautiful. Go look at your kid's bedroom. How much wall would you really touch if you had to search it? He says, for me, I have approximately 3 feet under their window. Otherwise, I would be pushed out into the center of the room by dressers, dollhouse, heap of dirty clothes, or laundry basket. Preach it, brother. That's my daughter's room, too. And isn't that where we expect to find potential victims anyway? The data points it out in Firefighter Rescue Survey. They are found between the bed, the window, and the door. They're found in the flow path, the hallway leading out. They're found in the 6 feet from an egress point. Fire room, adjacent fire room, hallway, and entry point adds up to about 88% of where all victims are found. Why do we teach firefighters to stay on a wall when in the middle of the room on the back wall is a bed or a bunk bed? You have to be able to teach them to move through that environment, get to those target areas, and that comes through teaching them how to identify those objects, or as my friend Joey Faxa says in my company, shrink to target. Okay, those are the bedrooms, go in the bedrooms. It's a kid's room, crib right. That's a crib. That's a window. That's a hose line. That's stairs, right? Hazard identification, holes in floors, thermal severity. I would argue the biggest problem is firefighters don't know they are in a dangerous environment. It says on the tag of your coat, firefighting is inherently dangerous and hazardous to your health. You can be injured and killed doing this profession. Just like the instructions, we tear that off and don't read it. We don't respect it. And for my friends who think outside the box, you can use this device to identify down power lines that may be energized. Don't use it to say if it's energized, but I got lots of photos of things that are energized that were not visible through the naked eye that the tick picked up. If we train firefighters on these two objectives, we do that regularly so that they are situationally aware of what these things look like in low, moderate, and high heat environments, high moisture environments where the camera doesn't work well, and teach them to rescue themselves, how much better could our firefighters be? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not something a big ask. This should start at the personal level, company officer level, and then the department should have a program that they enforce. But our personal responsibility is to take care of us so we can get home to our family. Our company level responsibility as a company officer to take care of our company and our station. And then you go above that, a battalion chief should take care of your battalion, fire chief should take care of the fire department. It's a big family. Don't you want your family to get home safe? I'm not telling you not to go in the building. I want you to go in that building. God forbid, if I'm not home and my family is trapped, I want you to come in there and get them. I want you to find them. And you're not going to do that in the dark, crawling around on all fours, hanging onto the wall with a flashlight. I want you to find the bedroom and go right to it. Shrink the target, be intelligently aggressive, find the fire, find the victim, and get home to your family. Because I can't be any more passionate than what happened to my own beloved people that I teach with. You want to know why this is important? This is Joey Bax's interview from Mayday Monday. Listen to it. I won't ruin his story. But Joey had ran out of air and already called his Mayday with another firefighter. He scanned one more time. He had a matter of seconds to determine what this image is. This is a set of stairs. If you think the image is going to be beautiful and clear and crisp, what environment are you in? A crappy one, which has what we call atmospheric attenuation, which makes the image look like garbage, right? He knew what this was. This led to him being able to help him and the other firefighter find their way out. How important is this? Hundreds of hours of training he dedicated to his craft, well, not thousands probably, and then hundreds of hours watching videos and teaching and traveling and doing all this. He knew. How many of you would know? 5 seconds. That's how long he had. I plead with you from a fire service educator perspective, from a husband's perspective, from a father's perspective. People are relying on you and your family's relying that you come home. The military uses everything they have to go take out the bad guy. You need to use everything you have to help the good people of this world who are trapped or in danger, your firefighters and yourself. Okay. Well, let's talk about the other side of it. When the tick doesn't work, well, like I said, it's not always going to be the answer, but I can tell you where it won't work well. High moisture content environments, sprinkler head discharge and cold smoke. Big problem. No discernible temperature difference, lots of moisture. It's not a shortwave military camera. You're going to have a hard time, if at all, seeing with a tick. Searching above the fire. You better do your scans before you make entry into that environment, because our first scan is the best scan. And then the other one is failure to recognize a unidirectional flow path. You know how many firefighters die in a flow exhaust every year? People are minimizing the number of firefighters down there. Oh, I was on 10 or 15 guys. If I took 10 or 15 of people that you knew and loved away from you, would it matter to you? Well, it's not that many. Garbage. Every human life is precious. Every firefighter who signed up to do this job is even more precious because they're sacrificing their time, their life to go help people. We need to teach them to recognize these things and mitigate them. And then the biggest issue that we see in our training is firefighters don't know how to scan. And they scan improperly, they scan too fast, they don't know to wipe the lens, they get frustrated, and they put the device down. Another thing you should be aware of, there is a type of smoke that will be so optically dense, you will have a hard time seeing through it, if at all. Technically, cameras don't see through anything. Long wave infrared radiation passes through smoke. The denser that smoke is, the more it absorbs that energy, and the more you get a false image. So context is the key to understanding. What am I about to go into? Standard residential home or a residential home that has 5 electric scooters in the living room? Spray foam insulation, a Tesla in the carport. Am I about to go into a warehouse full of tires? That should change how you address and fight it. And know that you want to get as much information from your 360 and prior to entry through that scan before you commit, so you have your pre-plan. This is some examples of where the camera will fog up and you will not be able to clear the lens. This is in Henrico County, Virginia. This is making entry and three or four steps down to the right. We are in the exhaust. Ask yourself, number one, are we flowing enough water here? Look at that full amount of exhaust coming out. And should we be standing up? Nope. When I follow them in, turn right, go down the steps, watch what happens to the image clarity when I get in the exhaust. How clear is that image? Not good. I'm in a blinding convective current. I move down the steps, step to the right, out of the flow path, wipe the lens, turn and look towards the fire, and boom. Wow, that's different. Why can I see now? I'm not correctly in that flow path that you see moving over their head. Okay. And this is what's going up the stairs. Look from the steps I was just at. Step up the steps, turn right, look up the stairs. What's going up those stairs? Full exhaust. Mom and dad sleeps downstairs, where the kids upstairs being cooked. Unidirectional firefighters kill people, kill firefighters, and numerous firefighters are burned each year who fail to recognize grayscale convection currents as a threat. The absence of color is not the absence of heat. This takes people who are trained and knowing what these are before they move into it. I'm going to show you the worst case scale, or worst case environment. We did fire attack on the first floor of this 3-story container for about 45 minutes, blowing lots of water. The stairs are open to the 3rd floor. I take them out the exterior stairs to the 3rd floor and tell them they're going to search this environment. And I tell them when they move in, they're not going to be able to see with the camera. You should have seen the looks. Oh, what do you mean I'm not going to be able to see? All the heat, all the smoke, all the moisture is moving up that chimney to that top floor, and all the windows are closed. This is what they see with the camera, or what I see, because I'm sitting here watching them supposedly. I can see approximately 12 inches away from me. Constant moisture. I want you to see what happens when I fast forward it to where I find the firefighters after they isolate the door and open the window. That's the best image I can get. They're approximately 5 to 6 feet away from me, 2 meters, as they say in Poland. You got to go from meters to feet. Many firefighters will become extremely frustrated with this, not realize this is a limitation of this device. High moisture environments will cause you problems, big time. You want to see something even more impressive? This is the door they closed, and the stairs are just outside of it. What's coming through the bottom of the door? That's a full exhaust, because it's sneaking through the bottom and getting hot right there. Just because you don't see color doesn't mean it's not hot. Sit there long enough and tell me if your body doesn't tell you something's wrong. Okay, trust your training, use technology second, understand there are limitations to this. And if you learn anything from what we teach you today, we want you to learn to scan properly so you can see all this stuff. You got a great video from Instructor Joey Baxa, a little 5-minute reminder of what to do. Check it out, watch it, and watch all of the videos on our TIC Basic Training Series. And he talks about making sure you carry the camera properly. As Thomas Anderson talks about his 4 points of scanning, we got to stay low. The camera has to enter the space, and we have to pick it up and scan wall to wall, and we have to do it slow and steady. Okay. The scan should begin low. I like to start away from the fire, because if I look straight at the fire, I don't look all the way around. If you have a pistol grip camera, flip it sideways. We call it the gangster grip. That was written about by Carrollton Fire and Rescue in 1999. And when you do that, you're able to see floor to ceiling in one view. If you need to see more of the floor or more of the ceiling, you just motorcycle throttle down or up. You don't have to do a 6-sided scan. I still want you to turn around and look behind you, but you end up with a 3 to 8 second scan instead of a 20 to 30 second scan. And it gives you more of that environment quickly and more efficiently. That scanning sequence should begin with you opening the door, reading the smoke with your eyes, not the tick, getting low, sweeping inside the doorway, and call out. Fire department. Who else should it be, right? But victims are found by vocal contact. And that first scan, when you do pick it up, should be your best scan because you are in the best place. Because once you shove your body into that environment, you're not promised good condition. And when you pick up that tick, wipe the lens with your non-dominant hand. Why you're non-dominant? Because I'm right-handed, so my right hand goes on the floor when I'm crawling in a tripod position. You crawl around in a nasty environment, pick up that nasty hand, wipe your face piece, wipe your lens. Tell me how that works for you. It's like rubbing dirt and grease and oil all over it, trying to wipe your windshield. Doesn't work out well. Scan wall to wall, not shoulder to shoulder. That can mess you up. I want to see the far wall to the other wall. And I want to make sure when I finish my scan back across the ceiling behind me and I'm done, and communicate that information and do yourself a favor that we teach. Put the camera down. Because if you're moving with the camera in front of your face, you're going to get tick tunnel vision, depth perception issues. You're going to miss victims, miss holes in floors. And then when the lights go out, you're in trouble. If the camera quits working, which it will, if you hadn't had camera failure, it'll happen. It's an electronic device not being well cared for, put in the worst place known to man. Odds are one day you will have a failure. And when you scan, guess what? If you're the only one with the tick, you're the only one who can see you. There's documented Maydays where the crew leader went in the front door, scanned, and took off and said, "Follow me." And 3 firefighters went behind him and said, "Follow who?" Couldn't see anything. So we scan, we communicate. And one of the communication model that our company's developed is called TED, type of room, egress points, and direction of search. We don't give a dissertation. Too many words through a mask creates confusion. We say, "Kids room, crib right." Company officer identifies a window, closes the door. That allows him to open the window for ventilation purposes because the fire is now isolated. Find a victim, take them straight to fresh air. Don't drag them right back down the hallway that hurts you that you came to. And if you're moving, do not stare at the tick. It will slow you down and cause problems. And if you want to know where your scan should be done, every time you enter a space, front door, moving from one room to the other, and always look behind you. And many times I've heard professionals say, "Well, I could see, I didn't need the tick." I have picked up a camera in many places that I could see, and I couldn't see convective heat rolling over my head. I couldn't see that the fire was down the hallway to the left. I could see fine. I couldn't see an energized power line. So make sure you use your tools, interpret and put them down, and have you a system that works for you. We recommend ways, not the way. Okay. And simple rules that will help you when you're identifying these paths to the fire or paths to victims. Convection can lead to direction. If you watch this video as the firefighters make a flow and move push down the hallway 3 rooms away, they start to cool and move, and the convection you see that's coming at us starts to shrink back. As the gases are contracted, we see the effects on surfaces. We don't see the gases themselves, but we see the cooling effect occur 2 rooms away. The safety officers are seeing the effects of an open and flowing clothesline. Convection can tell you which direction the fire is, also the severity. Colorization can provide or hide information. It can tell you which direction the fire is, superheated surfaces, and if you have too much color, it can block out detail and movement. That's one of the reasons we tell people to cool the environment, what we call forcing a rebound down a hallway, aggressively flowing, and then they see which direction the fire comes back from. We're forcing the fire to tell us where it is. That way you know before you go. Here's 2 examples of the Fire Pro 300 in Parker, Texas. Tell me if you can identify convection currents here. Which way is it? The one on the left and the one on the right. Same fire, just 2 different perspectives. One on the left, you can see it moving from right to left, moving from hot to cold. Watch as we move forward in the video on the right. We start to see color as we get closer. By the way, where colorization ends, convection begins. You can see the 2 coincide. You always have convection The color can block out that movement. So where the color stops, you can see the edges of that movement a little bit better. Look inside the fire room, check out our brother hanging out here. That's fast moving, that's hot. But guess what? This is hot too. The absence of color is not the absence of heat. Respect the environment. Know what you're getting into, okay? And if you look at this video, this is from our friends at Bears of the Oath. You can quickly scan this environment front door and determine the fires to your right. You've got heavy heat to the right where all they saw was thick, turbulent black smoke. We see the ceiling fans having a bad day. We see the identification of where the windows are, the layout. It's a living room leading to possibly a kitchen. And we haven't even moved into the space and we know where the fire is and where to put the water and how to take care of this problem. And there's a tennis racket on the floor right there if you look really closely. Ta-da! That's the benefit of mixed game mode in a seat camera. Balances out this image. I can see the colder environments and the hotter environments simultaneously. No other camera on the market does that. Okay. And when I talk about scanning properly, let me show you lazy standing up firefighter scan versus flipping the camera sideways and giving you the gangster grip. Standing up, areas down low is dark. Rotate it sideways, mixed game mode, automatically adjust. Let's see that again, as they say. Start, I see half of the space, 4 foot and up, turn it sideways, the camera automatically adjusts, and I see the victim, our cool palletized furniture we built here in Colorado. See the firefighters, I see the reflective nature of his helmet, where his eagle is. Now, if you look really closely, there's a Ruth Lee mannequin in the next room. And by the way, we're operating above the fire in this scenario. They have to push down the hallway flow water and push down the stairs. And if they don't flow water, they realize really quickly it's hot. Cameras tell them that long before they make entry into that space. Okay. So how can we stop it? How can we stop the madness? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You got to do better size ups, better scans, and work on staying oriented and being accountable and knowing other egress points besides the point you entered. Too many line of duty deaths and too many large scale incidents show that when people panic, they run back to the door they used. How many ways out are of this structure? One of the things he points out in his disorientation sequence and study of preventing firefighter disorientation by William Mora is the buildings firefighters died in had limited points of egress. One way in, one way out. Windows were blocked up, barred off, bad day, right? And then we got to manage our air. You know, you got to know, are you the heaviest breather? How long does it take you to get there? How long to get out? As Dr. Gasway says, if I pull you out of a building you thought you could win and the building ends up collapsing, you still mad at me, you can hate me for the rest of your long, successful, and wonderful life, right? So when we talk about those firefighters making entry into the buildings, they need to identify these objects that lead to egress. Doors, windows, stairs, stair railings, drop ceiling tiles. You can see the difference. Door casing, moldings, vents underneath windows or above windows, hose lines, all can tell you where you are and where you're going. Door casings and door handles can stand out. Door handles typically are shinier, especially in commercial structures. Type of door, is it a metal door, a wood door, a glass door? Hinges can stand out, believe it or not, just like in this picture. How do I know this? Because I've been doing this for 16 years and I'm still a student. Every day I learn something. And I learned that we cannot learn enough about this job that continues to take firefighters' lives every year for the same reason. When I can teach them that's a window, that's a kitchen table. And that last picture is a window in a basement. That's the worst picture out of the 3. And I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see bad conditions with very low discernible detail. Once you get good at this, you go, that is dark. Why is that dark? Because outside is cold, the glass is cold, the inside of the room is hot. This is important. This is teaching them to read a language called heat through the eyes of the camera. Other things that you should be aware of that can get us in trouble that are often missed are wires. This is a picture of HVAC duct that has fallen down from the ceiling in an attic fire, and the wiring is wrapped around the back of the firefighter's cylinder. Holes in floor can be very difficult to see sometimes, but a tip can help you identify them if we're looking properly. And we have temperature differential. Stairways leading to basements. Split level houses are famous for those getting us in trouble. High reflection areas that can lead to disorientation, such as commercial kitchens, restaurants. You go in these bathrooms and movie theaters, very shiny surfaces can get you in trouble. So when we look at this, this is a video of what I was talking about with the ductwork wires hanging down. You can see them clearly through the eyes of the Attack Pro VRS as these firefighters in Georgia aggressively attack this attic fire, and they eventually move on plane, going up the attic ladder, putting a ladder there, and they go directly on plane, as my friend Dennis Laguerre says, and they crush it. But the company officer sees what's going on here, and he's able to address these issues before they become a safety or a life safety issue. Okay. This is the type of data that only takes seconds to assess, communicate, and mitigate. This is looking down the stairs. There's fire down the stairs moving across and up, telling you which direction it's coming from and telling you you are above it and you are in a convective flow path. Look up San Francisco's line of duty death. Listen to that audio. Those firefighters who died on that hillside. If that doesn't give you chills after listening to what I'm saying, listen to that audio. And going through everything I just mentioned, which mentions everything that happened, all those same factors and variables occurred. Loss of accountability, loss of communication, flow path. Make sure we learn from our brothers and sisters that have already paid the ultimate sacrifice and not repeat it. Here are two different stairways. There's a commercial stairway to the left, a residential stairway to the right. That might be the only snapshot you get. Can you do that in a split second? Go, that's the way out, that's the way up. I need you to be that good because we're dependent on you. When I'm in a commercial building, things that can stand out are panic bars. They are typically 30 inches off the floor. That's where the code requires them to be. And they stick out because of a concept called emissivity. Same thing in this SCBA cylinder. He's wearing an MSA, which has a metal band. And shiny parts of that bottle or that halogen stand out because low emissivity objects look like a different temperature to the camera. Same thing with windows. Same thing from RIT when I'm looking at buckles, clips, forcible entry. If I need to know where the door is, where the hinges are, inward swinging door, outward swinging door, hose couplings that have been dragged across the ground. That never happens. Our ground's shiny. We can see things. We just take the time to look from the eagle on his helmet to the band on the back for where his UAC connections are to more. These are ways to help us do our job faster, more efficiently, and get our brothers and sisters home. Now, you can't do this trick overseas, but here we can look at our bottles and tell that this person is breathing air because they're cold, they're dark. Overseas, they put basically composite or TDI covers, outer shell covers on to protect the composite cylinder because they make their cylinders last long. But I can tell if a firefighter's down, if they're breathing air, their regulator line is dark, their waist belt is buckled, the bottle's dark, they're 5 feet from the door, I'm dragging them out the door. I'm not doing the 5 ways to connect them to air. If their bottle is white and their mask is off or the regulator's disconnected, that's different. These are all ways that can help us. When we're looking at SCBAs, it would be a lot easier to know where that stuff is before I try to fumble around in the dark. So I can find the connection points and I can move to them. And the only manufacturer that makes a camera that allows you to focus in on a target 12 inches away is Seek Thermal. Everything else is 3 feet to infinity on their focal point range. You can't work up close with any other camera when it comes to firefighter safety. I can literally hold it 12 inches away and find their EBSS, find their UAC, find their belt buckles so I can package them and put the camera down and go to work. That's how important this is. Those things that the camera can help you do, I've mentioned these before, but understanding where convection currents are, superheated areas are, keep you from crawling into the fire room. And know when your camera shows color and when it doesn't. And be aware if your TIC has something known as a black hot color palette. There are currently 3 models that offer that. It reverses what you're used to, and you will crawl into the fire room instead of away from it. And not all color palettes are useful for firefighting applications. TI Basic is the recommended firefighting color palette, and there are some investigative color palettes out there that are very useful for size up, overhaul, or locating superheated sources in low heat environments. But I don't recommend thermography-based color palettes like Rainbow, Ironbow, Black Hot, Fire and Ice. All of those can get you injured, killed, or disoriented because there's no training on them in the fire service. They're in thermography or in thermography training, but those people have the luxury of time to adjust those color palettes and adjust them under software. They have 30 minutes or longer. You have seconds. You want something that makes your job easier, faster, smarter, and gets you home. And I put this in here because I believe in both of them. This situational awareness tick on the left, a Fire Pro 300, combined with my friend who makes the Northern Star fire compass, can give you direction. That's a low cost investment. For the price of one cell phone, I can put both of these on a Firefighter. And unlike TikTok, this will save your life. There are more people upset about TikTok shutting down than not being able to provide adequate training, thermal imaging device such as the Northern Star fire compass for a firefighter to find their way out. I need you to understand, I want you to win. And to win, you've got to know your tools. Whether you use a Fire Pro 200 from Seek or Fire Pro 300, both of these are great. My Fire Pro 300 is my favorite. And then we have this resource for you that you can go through all the situational awareness cameras on the market and look at over 1,000 hours of testing and evaluate them for yourself. Which one's right for you? Don't believe me, don't believe Seek. Read the reviews and go do your testing and train on object and hazard identification. And does this help your firefighters see those things we talk about? If they can't see, then you don't need to buy it, period. I don't care if it is cheap, then that's not going to help. And the way you do that is through Seek Thermal's burn program. You can send them an email through this QR code and they'll send you one of their products to test for free. Free. Now, who's going to do that? You got to contact a vendor. You got to wait. No, they'll send it to you. You test it and you say, oh, I like it. It's a test drive. And test it in a fire, not in a day room. You don't die in day rooms. You don't work in day rooms. You work in fires. Make sure you have it set up. I want it this week because we're doing live fire testing or evaluation. That's when you send the email. Okay. And this is everything I just talked to you about, this entire program, the PowerPoint, the LODDs that are mentioned, and the Preventing Firefighter Disorientation, the study, all that's in one Google Drive folder. You scan this QR code, boom, goes right to it, and you can have this for training. You can watch this webinar. We're going to post on the web here once we get the link back from Seek Thermal. It'll be on our YouTube channel. They'll share it out to everyone who registered, all 349 people that registered for this. God bless you for coming. That's 349 more people that we could potentially save lives. And if you want more resources, this is our YouTube channel. This is a Seek Thermal link on my website. It has 17 hours of training videos. And this is our public shared Google Drive that has this PowerPoint and many, 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 many others, and many, many other brands, all for free. Why free? Number one, Seek Thermal sponsor and help us do this because it helps pay for these things. Number two, it's for you. You can't save people's lives if I withhold information. But I want to train them, educate them, and then let them go out and make a difference. That's what this is for. This is my contact information, our website here. Go to it, hit contact us. It goes straight to me or my direct email or phone number. And then we post every single day on these platforms here. And then my lead instructors also have their own Facebook pages. I highly recommend you talk to any of my guys. There's 11 of us out there. We're teaching all around the world. We train 10,000 people a year, and we're not even scratching the surface of this problem. We need to bring our people home so there can be a firefighter to go save Mrs. Smith tomorrow, in the words of God, words of Alan Brunseen. God bless you. Thank you for your time. Jordan, I hand it back over to you. I think we've got about 2 minutes left.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy. So yeah, if you guys have any further questions after this webinar, please feel free to reach out to Andy directly or to myself, and we'd be happy to answer any of those questions. If there was something that Andy mentioned that you wanted to go back and reference, a QR code you wanted to scan, we will be sending out a recording of this webinar to everyone who registered. So thank you again, Andy, for your time, and thank you everyone for registering for today's webinar.
Thank you, Jordan. Y'all have a great day.